Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Syamiadi bin Nasaruddin. I'm from J4AM1104E and my metric number is 2019400618. So for today, I will make a video about F1 experiment, which is the title is the hydrostatic on the plane surface. So without wasting our time, let's just this video. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Now I will explain about the hydrostatic force on plane surface, which is the F1 experiment. So first, for the objective of the experiment, to determine experimentally the magnitude of the force of pressure, which is the hydrostatic force, and its point of action center of pressure on both partially submerged plane surface. And the second objective of the experiment is to compare and analyze the experimental result with the theoretical value. So now we will go to the safety procedure. So first, switch off all equipment of the experiment, either the equipment or the lamp in the lab. And next is wear safety boot and the lab coat. So now we will go to the apparatus and procedure for the F1 experiment. So this is the apparatus for the hydrostatic pressure. So first is the counterweight, and 2 is the tank, 3 is the drain valve, number 4 is the adjustable feet, number 5 is the balance arm, 6 is the quadrant, 7 is the balance pointer, 8 is the balance span, 9 is the weight, 10 is the depth of immersion scale, and 11 is the spirit level. So now we will go to the procedure of the experiment. So first, we will place the hydrostatic pressure apparatus on the top of the bench, like the picture number 1. And next, make sure that the apparatus is installed properly. So make sure that all the apparatus is combined properly. So the third procedure is the level the apparatus using the adjustable feet facilitated by the spirit level attached. So we will adjust the feet and the spirit level attached. And the next is adjust the counterweight to the level the balance arm to the horizontal position. And for the number 4, we'll adjust the counterweight to make sure the level of the balance arm is in the 90-degree position, which is the horizontal position. So next step is make sure that the drain valve V16 is closed and slowly add water into the tank until the surface just touch the quadrant base. Thus establish the counter datum level corresponding to 0 at the scale. So before we put the water, make sure the drain valve is closed, and slowly we put the water until it touch the bottom of the quadrant. And next is place the weight, which is the 50-gram weight, on the balance span, and slowly add water into the tank until the balance arm is again horizontal. So after we put the weight, we must put the water to balance the arm into the horizontal position. So next, which is the number 7, record the mass of weight and depth immersion at the tank in the experimental datasheet, and also observe and record the type of immersion, either partial and or fully immersion. So next is repeat step 6 and 7 with increase the number of weight, with starting for 15 until 315 gram, with the increasement of 50 gram until the tank is full of the water. So, and the last procedure is drain off the water. The experiment is complete by opening the valve V16. So that's all for the objective, safety procedure, apparatus, and the procedure. So for the calculation, there will be 6 formula that we will use, because we have two situations. This is full submerged and the partial submerged. So we will go for the partial submerge first. So partial submerge, we have three formula. So first, for the resultant hydrostatic force, which is F, we will use the formula rho g times with the b d square over 2. So the b is the width of quadrant. So next, second moment experimental, which is h exp. So we will use mgl over f. And lastly is the h theory. We will use the formula h minus d over 3. The h is the quadrant to pivot. So next, the formula that we will use is for the full submerge. So the formula for the F is rho g bd times with the d minus d over 2. So for the h exp, we will use the same equation, which is mgl over f, and h theory, we will use the formula d minus d over 2 over square plus d over square over 12 over with d minus d2 plus h minus d. So now I will calculate the formula. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Now I will go to the table for the F1 experiment with the hydrostatic plant on the surface. So now we will do the table. So the calculation for the every table I have shown in the calculation part before. So now I will just fill the table for the every table that given in the lab sheet. So now I will calculate, I will fill the table. So after finish fill the table, now I will do the graph. So the first graph we will do the resultant hydrostatic force versus the second moment for the experimental, and the second graph we will do the resultant hydrostatic force over second moment for the theory 1. So first we will choose the theory hydrostatic force, and we will choose the experimental second moment, and then we will choose the chart. So the left one will be the second moment of the chart experiment. Before that, we will put the quick layout. So the title will be resultant resultant hydrostatic force as second moment experiment. So the axis title for the y-axis will be the resultant hydrostatic force and the x-axis will be the second moment of the experimental, which is the distance between fulcrum and the center of the pressure. So next is the resultant hydrostatic force versus the second moment for the theory 1. So we'll insert the scatter chart so we can see the differences between the theory 1 and the hydrostatic the theory 1 and the experimental one. So this is the graph for the experiment for the F1 experiment. Now I will go to the conclusion for the hydrostatic force on place surface, which is the F1 experiment. So I successfully achieved all the summaries of the result and the key finding, which is I successfully fill in all the table of the experiment by using the equation that had in the lab sheet, and the objective of the experiment, which is the determine experimentally the magnitude of the force of the pressure and its point of action on both submerged and the partially submerged plane surface, and compare and analysis the experimental result with the theoretical value is successfully achieved. So for the experimental result and the theoretical one, as we can see in the video on the graph, we can see the different with the experimental and the theoretical graph is very different. The experimental graph, we can see the graph is like the S1, the S shape, and the theoretical graph, we can see the graph is in the curve shape. So next is the possible error of the experiment. For me, the possible error come from the balance arm. So some student forget to put the water and make the balance arm horizontal. So when the student did not do that, the error will get bigger for the experimental and the value one. So that's all for this experiment. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and thank you.